What's up, everybody? I'm Stan, and welcome to Detail Comics, where we go over comics in detail. This is iRate Reviews, the show where I go over a comic book, its story, its art, give you my impressions, and let you know whether it's something to go back to the shop for or not. Today I'm going to be talking about All-Star Batman number 5. So All-Star Batman number 5 concludes the first story arc of Scott Snyder in the brand new series All-Star Batman. It's also the conclusion of John Romita Jr.'s art on this particular book. So where we kind of pick up in this storyline is we see Batman, Duke Thomas, and Two-Face on this kind of gambling boat on a river, and basically they're super in conflict. You've got the Penguin, you've got Beast, which is formerly KG Beast, and a few others that are trying to track him down, and there's a giant mob of people that's trying to take him over. So Batman, not necessarily wanting to see Beast unleash hell upon all these individuals that are out there, he basically throws a bomb over there, unmoors the boat, and sends them cascading down the river. And at this point in time, they kind of realize that, oh shit, we're headed towards the falls. It's just like, this is a really dire situation. Batman immediately notices that the poker chip, which is made out of fiberglass, is probably one of the most buoyant things that they can take on. So that's where they're headed. They're going to use that as a flotation device. So they break through everything. They're on there, and they see that the boat is kind of, like on its own. It's just one of those situations where it's just like, hey, you know what? This thing's going to go over the falls too, but Batman can't really let his villains die, can he? So he throws a bomb over there, redirects the boat, it goes crashing into the bank as the poker chip goes to cascade over the falls. They've got a plan, and Two-Face might not be happy with it, but they make this great leaping dive off of this thing, full-on spread, Batman, cape, Duke Thomas, Two-Face. It's awesome. And as a result of this, they basically just fall off these falls, and you don't necessarily know where they survive. However, you do see Tweedledee and Tweedledum, the Tweeds, D and Dumb. So it's basically they're wandering through the forest trying to hunt down Batman and the rest of his posse, but they basically get knocked unconscious. And what we find is that we are super close to our final destination. This home sitting on this cliffside where essentially Bruce and Two-Face had grown up, where Bruce and Harvey were friends and where they were ultimately separated. So we go into this kind of old abandoned building. We see where Two-Face and Harvey have really hidden their respective pieces, and this is the antidote. But the antidote isn't necessarily what Bruce was thinking it was. It wasn't what Batman was expecting. And what it was is actually the acid rain that was rained down upon the people of Gotham that was converting them. That was just a trial run for Harvey's own serum. And Harvey's serum wasn't necessarily intended to basically banish Two-Face. It was intended to basically let Harvey die peacefully. It was his own assisted suicide, which is a really interesting kind of concept that plays off of Tom King's Batman. But it's like Snyder and King are playing with two very different parts of Batman, but they happen to be touching on the same topic at the same time, which is super cool that everybody has this kind of idea regarding these things. And what we see is that Batman isn't necessarily going to be part of this. He's just like, you know what? He smashes him out of the window. They're having this big tussle. They're over on the side of the cliff, and it's just like, you know what you want? You want this, Harvey? Let's do it. And he just takes what you think is the syringe with this cure that is going to banish Harvey Dent forever, and he injects it into him. Harvey kind of like, oh, okay, cool, I didn't know that you had it in you, but yeah, here's the thing, clouds are gone, nobody's going to be changing anytime soon, and he realizes that it's not quite the feeling he expected. Harvey isn't going away. Two-Face isn't taking over. And what it was is that Batman goes over his very detailed plan of, about this compound that he was developed with another member of the cast, and it was just, it was really poignant because Batman says that essentially this is the working of Harvey himself. Whoever decides to fight hardest at that point in time is going to be the person that is going to succeed, to win the day as that personality that's going to be dominant, at least for the time being. So what you have to do is you have to struggle to be a better person. So it's a really good morality tale for something that could turn out to be a very dark kind of storyline. And it was overall really dark between the betrayals and things like that, and basically bringing out the worst side of everybody that was following along Batman, trying to take back Two-Face to hide their own secrets. And we think that everything's, good to go until we kind of get this skewering through the shoulder of Batman. We realize that Beast is there because he had marked him with his blade. He is ready to hunt this man down all across the island that we found him on. Unfortunately, that's not necessarily going to be the case because Batman bowls him over the side of the cliff. Duke Thomas reaches out, grabs his cape, saves him at the last moment, and the crowds part as they let him go through. At the backup story, we actually see Jim Gordon going to Wayne Manor and making his way through the clock, and it's really fun because Alfred is like freaking out. He's freaking out of the possible loss of identity for Master Bruce, and all these kind of different things happen in this backstory simultaneously as Batman is going across and reaching his final destination. And what we find is that, he does find a cave, But it's not the Batcave. It's Man Cave. And Jim Gordon's just like, whew, thank God. Because, what kind of person would Batman be? You'd really think that Bruce Wayne would have, a second set of stairs going to a man cave in case you weren't Batman headed down to the Batcave? Something that his butler didn't even know about? What kind of man do you think this is? And it's really like a good homage to how much of a planner, how brilliant Batman can be in these situations. So having a contingency plan for everything is a pretty awesome characteristic. But as we see things wrap up, essentially Beast is back knocking on the door of the foes that employed him, and we realize that it's Batman. It's a great little fun finish to the actual story. As far as Scott Snyder's Batman or All-Star Batman goes, it was really an interesting take on Batman. It's very much what he was doing in the middle to later portions of the actual Batman story during the New 52. It wasn't quite the same as, say, like Court of Owls kind of plot, something along those lines, but it definitely felt like Scott Snyder in his writing overall. It's not anything that was considered disappointing, and it was a really strong overall arc to begin with. And what I'm really excited to see is how he transitions into other individual, small, more compartmentalized stories in issues 6, 7, 8, as we move forward with different artists that have really dealings with different kind of villains, because this is really giving me a really strong sense. As far as the art, I have some really serious misgivings about John Romita Jr.'s art. The colors really brought the palette to life, but there's something about the way that it just portrays individual characters that doesn't quite connect with me, unfortunately. I don't want to say that I suffered through the art in this book because it had its own strong points. I mean, for the first 1 to 2 issues, basically any time that Batman had his mask on and there was action going on, it was kinetic, it was violent, and it felt visceral, and I really liked that feel to it. But when we started kind of slowing things down, Batman had his mask off, the people and the way they're portrayed, the whole scenes in issue 2 were fantastic, but just as soon as you slow it down, you put him into a little bit more personal setting, the Romita Jr. art just kind of loses it a little bit for me. I would say that this is a really good story. It's definitely something that I'd recommend picking up in trade if you haven't had the opportunity to read it, because All-Star Batman and the start of Scott Snyder's run in this book is really interesting, and it's definitely a great place for people to hop onto. It's a really solid Batman book, and I'd have to recommend it for folks. So that's my review of All-Star Batman number 5, but I want to know what you guys think too, so hit me up in the comments down below, and we can start that conversation. As always, if you like what you see, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe right there to get more news, reviews, and commentary on comic books, comic book movies, comic book TV shows and games, and anything and everything inside the world of comics.